Hi, I'm Dave, and I know wrestling. Do you want a wrestler who made a career out of cryptic nonsense? Do you want a monster that had to have a referee save him from Seth Rollins? And do you want a wrestler who was fired by WWE twice in two very different ways? Then allow me to introduce to you my client for Dave Knows Wrestling's honest promos, Mr. Alexa Bliss, Thick Doink, Not Broken Matt Hardy, Wyndham Rotunda, or The Fiend. Behold, a wrestler who looks more like Jack Black and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer than a professional athlete, as he has the least impressive physique when compared to the rest of his wrestling relatives. You know, the opposite of Randy Orton. Although, just like his wrestling kin, IRS, Uncle Barry, and Bo Dallas, Wyndham is quite capable in the ring. Too bad nobody really cares about any of that stuff and they just want to see him do some Halloween cosplay. That's right, while the IWC normally praises people for their work rate, here's a wrestler who somehow got over just for his character work while no one really cares whether or not he's trying in the ring, as the internet just wants to like this guy no matter what. Again, the opposite of Randy Orton. But who could blame them? After all, Wyndham is the absolute master of both creativity and reinventing himself. He's so good at it that he seemingly gets his fans to forget every time one of his characters slips into being completely absurd, completely stale, and also the fact that some of his promos eventually go into long-winded meandering rants that are on Ultimate Warrior levels of bad. And even when Wyndham's fans are willing to admit that something he's done sucks, they're real quick to put the blame on either his opponent, his cohorts, or his booking, instead of simply admitting that the problem with low-rent horror movie gimmicks is that they tend to book themselves into a corner, as it's really hard to write for them when everyone else on the roster is normal. It's like Wyndham's that one kid in class with a peanut allergy that's keeping everyone else from having a PB&J for lunch. Then again, none of this is really all that surprising, considering that Wyndham's fanbase is loaded with having tons of contradictory opinions, like with that hideous custom championship belt that he had. While many fans do agree that sideshows like The Fiend really have no business in the title picture, that sure didn't stop them from buying tons of those replica belts, now did it? Not that that mattered all that much to WWE, as Wyndham joined a list of wrestlers along with Enzo Amore and Zack Ryder of people who sold ton of merchandise only to be rewarded by being de-pushed and subsequently fired. Well, at least those guys didn't have to lose to a 50-year-old Goldberg, who, by the way, was the inspiration behind one of Wyndham's arm tattoos. Bet he regrets that, huh? Which might also explain why he's a no-selling squash monster too. Continuing with things about Wyndham that his fans seem to ignore, how about all of his forgotten cinematic matches? Like the Wyatt compound match with the New Day, his broken Matt Hardy match, and the House of Horrors with Randy Orton. Because for some reason, despite all that, people tend to only focus on Wyndham's last two cinematic bouts, one of which people absolutely loved, and the other people absolutely hated, even though nobody wants to admit that quality-wise, they were pretty much the same. But alas, fans just hated that Extreme Rules swamp fight he had with Braun Strowman, but they loved that art house nonsense he did with John Cena at WrestleMania 36. And look, obviously I know they were under unique and difficult circumstances, but that's still no excuse to try and pass off what comes across like a John Cena fanfic on an acid trip as a WrestleMania match. But who am I kidding? There's no convincing all the D&D players who actually like the Firefly Funhouse match that all this unrealistic meta garbage is a bad idea because, well, it's not like any of them actually have an idea of what reality is in the first place. But you know what? All that doesn't matter because he's back now, and we can all return to rage quitting every single time that WWE doesn't book him exactly the way we have concocted in our own heads. And furthermore, while we all loved following the White Rabbit through QR codes and social media, the truth is companies are really just exploiting the fact that by having engagement with a brand, it makes us feel like we're part of the creative process. However, the side effect to all this is that after years of this level of interaction through the internet, it's begun to make us subconsciously feel entitled to getting exactly what we want from our entertainment. And Wyndham is just yet another enabler of this. But hey, follow the buzzards, right? In the end, if you want a wrestler who appears to be hot tagging with CM Punk over who the dirt sheets get to clickbait us with over their possible return, a wrestler who unfortunately has the name of Rotunda when they're overweight, and a wrestler who at least didn't just make a career because of who he's related to. You know, again, the opposite of Randy Orton. Then allow me to introduce to you my client for Dave Knows Wrestling's honest promos. I Can't Win Our Shyster, Scary Wyndham, No Dallas, Wyndham Rotunda, or The Fiend. Yes, this episode primarily focused on the Fiend, but don't worry OG Bray Wyatt fans, I didn't forget about him.